Now, after this sermon, the series is going to pick up pretty fast. We've spent the first 4 weeks just going verse by verse through Joshua chapter 1. After this week, the remainder of the sermons are going to be an entire chapter per week because we're going to pick it up a little fast. But I wanted to go slow here at the very beginning because I wanted to lay this as a foundation to drive this deep down in our hearts, that every single one of us has a legacy inside of us. A legacy is something that is passed down from one generation to the next. So Joshua, he receives his legacy from Moses. Moses passes it down to Joshua, and then Joshua passes it down to his people. Every single one of you, you have a legacy inside of you. But here's what's so critical for us to understand, is that legacy ain't easy. Right? If legacy was easy, then everybody would have one. Here's what I discovered, is that everybody wants one, but not everybody's willing to work for one. People sometimes just think, well, if God is sovereign, then everything is just going to happen. But that's not actually true. God is inviting us into a partnership with him. God's saying, I'm going to give you this land, but you have to conquer the land. I'm going to make a way for you, but you have to walk in faith with me. It doesn't happen accidentally. It doesn't happen automatically. And legacy isn't even a guarantee. It's going to take us partnering with God, being obedient to God, walking in the will and the words of God for our life. And that's why God starts with Joshua. He says, Joshua, you have a promise. Joshua, there is an inheritance. Joshua, I have a plan and a purpose. I want good and great things for your life, but it starts here. Be strong and courageous, because if Joshua's not strong, he's not going to take the land. If Joshua's not courageous, he's not going to conquer the 7 nations that are 10 times their size. And if Joshua doesn't have strength plus courage, he's not going to be bold enough to put his foot in the River Jordan. He's not going to be bold enough to walk around the walls of Jericho. He's not going to be bold enough to confront Ai on his sin. He's not going to be bold enough to circumcise the entire nation a second time. It requires a boldness in order for Joshua to do what he wants to do, strength plus courage. And so Moses tells Joshua, Deuteronomy 31, be strong, be courageous. God comes to him and he says, be strong and courageous. So much so that by the time we get to the end of chapter 1, verse 18, what are the people repeating? What are the people saying back to him? What do they say? They say, be strong and courageous. And here's the lesson that I want you to see, is that everything rises and falls on leadership. It starts with Joshua. It starts in the heart of the leader. Because if Joshua's not strong, his people won't be strong. If Joshua's not courageous, his people won't be courageous. And if Joshua's not bold, then his people will not be bold. It all starts in the heart of the leader. And for the first chapter, God's speaking to the heart of Joshua. Joshua, decide today, determine today, become the man that I've created you to be strong and courageous, because everything rises and falls on leadership. Now listen, I am not some leadership guru. Right? I'm not John Maxwell. I'm not Gary Vee. Right? This is a sermon. This is not a TED Talk. I'm not really that big into leadership in that way. But I do know that this is true, that it's true, that everything rises and falls on leadership. I'll just give you an example. 57% of people, when surveyed, have quit a job because of a bad boss. How many of you have ever quit a job because you had a bad boss? Just look around the room. That's a lot of you, right? Right, you're like, it doesn't matter how much you pay me. It doesn't matter the headache and the anxiety and the stress that I have to go through. And eventually you just get to a place where you're just like, enough is enough and you don't pay me enough. And I'm not taking this job, right? And because when you're working in a job with a bad leader, what does it do? It affects your home life. It affects your marriage. It affects your children. It affects your physical health, your mental health. And it's detrimental to the rest of your life because you're under bad leadership. But how many of you ever have stayed at a job because you believed in the leadership? Maybe the company was struggling. Maybe there was a team that wasn't doing very well, but you believed in the leader, and so you stuck it out. You grinded it out because you believed in not only the person you were following, but the vision that you were a part of. because bad leadership is detrimental to the health of the people who are under them. But good leadership, it builds them up, it makes them strong, and it helps them accomplish their goals. It's the same way in our lives as well. Everything rises and falls on leaders. And so Joshua is the leader of the nation. He has to be strong and courageous, because if he's not strong and he's not courageous, then his people are going to be fearful and cowards. And so it starts in the heart of Joshua. And right now, some of you may be thinking, you're like, Byron, that's great and wonderful, but I'm not a leader, so this doesn't apply to me. Don't sell yourself so short. Because the truth is every single one of us, we are a leader in some area of your life. This is what I teach our team all the time, is that leadership is nothing more than influence. If you have influence in someone else's life, congratulations, you are a leader. If people call you when they're going through a hard time, you know why? Because they see leadership qualities inside of you. If people come to you whenever something bad goes wrong at work and they're gossiping and complaining, you know why they do that? For two reasons. Either one, you're a bad leader, or two, you're a good leader and you can help them through it. Everything rises and falls. As parents, you are the leader of your children. The decisions you make determine the quality of their future today. You're leaders, husbands and wives. You are co-leaders in that home, and so you need to pastor your home in such a way because you are leaders. At your job or your vocation or your workplace, you are a leader because you have influence. You can lead up, you can lead down, and you could be a good leader, you could be a bad leader. But every single one of you in college, at your dorm, your roommates, the people who you hang out with your extracurricular activities, you have influence, which makes you a leader. High school kids, you're a leader because the way that you live your life can influence in a positive or a negative way the peers that are around you. Every single one of you, you are a leader in some area of your life. And the lesson that we learn from Joshua is that everything rises and falls on leaders. If the leader is strong, the people will be strong. If the leader is courageous, the people will be courageous. Listen, whenever I am not strong, practicing my spiritual disciplines, praying, reading my Bible, being emotionally available towards my wife, guess what? My wife suffers. If I'm not building that relationship, then my children begin to suffer. And when the children suffers, my character suffers. And when me, as a leader, my character suffers, guess what? Our staff suffers, the team suffer, you suffer, the church suffers, the kingdom of God suffers, the mission of God suffers, the testimony and witness of the gospel begins to suffer. Why? Because everything rises and falls on leadership. You and your choices, they matter. And it's not just your life and the decisions that you make that only affect you, but they affect people that are around you, that count on you and depend on you. This is the reason why it starts with strength. It starts with courage. It starts with boldness. So let me ask you again, for the sake of your family, are you willing to be bold? For the sake of your children, are you willing to be bold? For the sake of the gospel, are you willing to be bold? For the sake of others, for the sake of the church, for the sake of your future, for the sake of your legacy, are you willing to be strong, courageous, and to be bold? This is the faith side now. Yes! Well, again, good luck. We're going to show you how to do it.